Welcome back, y'all. Sorry about that delay I had. Florida was getting some pretty crazy weather, including snow this year, so that's kind of a shocker there. But today's video, I'm gonna give an update on my road bike right now, but today's topic is primarily gonna be all about the Sram s500 brake levers. I've been wanting to try and also review these brake levers for the longest time. But off the bat, that's kind of the first drawback with these brake levers. They're pretty pricey for what you get with them because, again, there's no shifting function, but there's more details that I actually discovered when I finally got a hold of these brake levers. And I pretty much got them at an extreme discount because someone posted them on eBay and they were still new, so I'm thankful I found that listing. But the thing with these brake levers is there's actually no return spring, so they are floppy, especially when installing them, so you have to use rubber bands to kind of tighten them so you can do the table trick to make sure your brake levers are set up equally. But installation was pretty straightforward, pretty normal, and the feel of them are absolutely familiar. A good thing I can report though is when I did receive them, the quality is there. It's typical Sram quality, feels really good. So I'm impressed with that. Side note though, a pretty direct comparison to these are gonna be the Tektro RL340s, which I have reviewed in the past. So I believe they're in the exact same category. Now I don't have too much SRAM experience other than the rear derailleur, not even any shifters, so I don't have that ecosystem quite yet. But I do have experience with Sensa, and it's cross-compatible with SRAM, particularly on my state bicycle all-road in the past. So installation was pretty much exactly the same, where the bolt, you have to peel back the hoods and access the bolt, which is totally fine, but I'm more of a fan of how Shimano mounts on the bars rather than Sram and Sensa. But I also have these mounted on a compact drop bar, so that's where I say it's more natural on a compact drop bar rather than the traditional classic drop bar shape. But in the near future, I still may try that just to see how it feels, even though I'm not too confident it will be good. And that being said, since it's a compact drop bar with 31.8 diameter, I still have to use the quill stem to threadless stem adapter on here. So even though it's not as pretty, it actually works really well and the feel of everything is really nice. However, with how much drop I have with the threadless stem adapter, even with the single spacer I have on it, it's pretty aero, which is great for riding and going fast, but vlogging, not so much. So initially I did have these brake levers connected to the Suntour Cyclone brake calipers, but with how good the leverage is on these brake levers, I knew I had to upgrade to some dual pivot brakes, which are the Shimano Sora dual pivot brakes that I have right now. Which that leads me to my first major key point with these brake levers. The levers feel so good. They're wide and have enough surface area, but still look amazing compared to the Tektro brakes. So these levers do have an outward flare that's very familiar like modern shifters, but I feel like they're much better than the Tektro brakes. Moving on to the hood area, it's nice and thick. These are the thickest aero brake levers I have ridden, obviously because they're more modern, but just the overall feel, it just feels so much nicer than the Tektros. I know I keep dumping on the Tektros, but they had this shallow curve to the top, and honestly, in my opinion, I don't think they work good at all with compact or modern drop bars. So with the shape of these, they work perfectly. That also means that the transition from the tops of the compact drop bars to the hoods is completely flat, and it makes a nice resting area when I need to sit a little bit more upright or just want to rest my hands on it. And not only that, with the better hood feel and shape, it's thick enough to really grip and put a lot of power down if you're sprinting from the hoods. Also, the comfort in climbing is unmatched. It is actually a bit better than the Shimano SLR brake levers, but I'll still stay loyal to those once I get a hold of a pair. But these absolutely beat the Tektro brake levers. And after sprinting, getting into the aero hood position, chef's kiss with how that feels. For this next detail, I did not know, but let me pull to the side so I can show you this real quick. If you're a longtime subscriber, you know exactly why I was the perfect demographic for these aero brake levers. But if you're new here, I've been riding down tube shifters way longer in my cycling career than drifters. So that's why I went with these brake levers. But also another video I did mention, I'm still on the hunt for Shimano SLR brake levers. And just right now, there's just this chapter that I cannot find a good deal or in good condition. So went with these to try these out. Another oddity that I noticed, I'd never seen reported online, but the actual plastic for the hoods, there's routing for cables. And again, I unfortunately don't have a SRAM ecosystem to test it out, but it looks like you can potentially attach shifters on here, maybe a shifter mechanism, and have cable routing for the shifter cables. So that was actually a surprise, and it's kind of cool that that is included. Now, one complaint I did have about my Sensa shifters in the past that the Tektro brakes didn't have is the rubber hoods were super loose on the Sensa shifters. The Tektros were super tight, and I'm glad to report that these are also pretty tight as well. And this little section, when I first got them, it's a little sharp, not like a razor blade, but it's pretty sharp there. And I thought before I rode these brake levers that I potentially might grip that and squeeze too hard and cut my fingers. But I can definitely report also that from the entire time I've been riding these brake levers, I have never put my finger in there in that sharp section, and because they're so thick and comfortable, I'm always back here. So I've never ran into that, even though I kind of speculated it at first. Even though it's much warmer out here, we have the occasional rain shower, so let me get going so I can at least finish this video. So major detail, if these brake levers are gonna work for you or not, is they're not angled straight forward. They're actually angled inward. So you have to set them up kind of flared inward. So if you're a fan of that, great. If you're not, I would avoid these and maybe go with the Tektros. Now I'm used to the Shimano SLR brake levers. They're not built to have that inward angle, but these are. But they're still comfortable. They're still comfortable for me. But a big difference from the Suntour Cyclone brake levers that I did a review on is right towards, I guess you could say, the nub section of the brake levers has so much grip. So aero hood position, or if you kind of want to just rest there and grip it, you won't have to worry about getting bucked off and losing grip on the bars. And the fact that these bars and hoods are set up so low, I have a shorter reach to reach the down tube shifters and shift. So it's pretty quick. I have a quick setup here. Another detail, the flatter surface of the levers combined with the gloss finish has so much more grip than, let's say, the Shimano Tourney brake levers. The Shimano Tourney brake levers have this matte finish where it's actually a little bit slippery. I can have my finger on the edge of these brake levers and still have all the grip for full force braking. ultimately, who are these brake levers for? I think it's a very specific market. I qualify for it. Perhaps you do too. Definitely for single speed builds, maybe fixed gear with both brake levers, unless you do the rubber band trick. Otherwise, if you're not hooked up to a brake caliper, it's just gonna flop all over the place, which that kind of sucks. I wish they did built-in return springs in them. I think it does still fill a need for some riders out there, such as myself. But it's another thing is just the price tag. It's a little pricey for what it is. If you don't care too much about the shape and just want a functioning, modern looking aero brake lever, go with the Tektros. Otherwise, if you got to have these, like I kind of did, go for them, but wait for a deal on something like eBay or local marketplace. But another type of individual who might use these is if you're looking for the vintage steel frame set like this, a build just like this, but want compact drop bars and a more modern brake hood feel, then I highly recommend them for sure. Oh, and I almost forgot to address, I switched to mostly black parts minus the crank set just to match these brake levers on here. But let me head home now. I'm gonna show you one final detail and potential idea that I have before concluding this video. All right, so basically with these brake levers compared to the SLR brake levers, majority, if not almost all your hand is resting on the brake levers, where the SLRs, half of your hand is on it and half of it is on the traditional drop bars. That being said, inspired by the mostly black components on here, I do have a black quill stem along with my black Nito drop bars that have the traditional shape. But compared to the compact drop bars, but if I slap these brake levers in combination with these classic drop bars, the reach might be a little too far for comfort, but I don't know, I'm just in that in between where I think I could pull it off, but I really am curious if you all think I should try it, even though there could be the risk of making it uncomfortable again, because right now it's actually really comfortable given the nature of the quill stem to the threadless stem adapter. It's pretty low, it's aero, feels super fast, but it still has that threadless stem look, and it's not the prettiest on these vintage steel bikes. Hopefully I was able to answer some questions if you're in the market for these aero brake levers. Let me know if you have any further questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them in the comments. And then that being said, thank you so much for liking and commenting on these videos and subscribing. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video.